Watch the drop top poppy, known as the grimy, limey, slimy, try me, blimey. Simply smashing in a fashion that's timely. Mad villain dashing in a beat rhyme crime spree. We rock the house like rock and roll. Got more soul than a sock with a hole. Set the stage with a goal.
Welcome to Empathy for Oranges podcast, hosted by Jensen, Matthew, Troy, and myself, Jose. Today we'll be discussing Tommy Orange's book There, focusing on the character, Tony Loneman, and how we built empathy on the character throughout the stories we read in his book There. So, Troy, could you tell the audience a little about who Tony is?
Yeah, definitely, Jose. Tony Loman is a character in the book There. He is a Native American living in Oakland, California with Maxine, Tony's grandmother. Tony was born with fetal alcohol syndrome, aka the drome, which Tony refers to it as. In the book, Tony says the drome has taught him to look past the first look that people give him, to find that other one right behind it. And what I think he means when he states that is that it's almost like a sixth sense, if you want to call it that. It's given him a different look on people. He can see who is judging him right off the bat and know if they're a good person or not. He knows who is fake and who is actually accepting of him.
Yeah, definitely. I can see him not trusting people when he first meets them. And like you said, it's given him a sixth sense around others.
Yeah, definitely. But, still dealing with that whole the drome, how do you think that affects Tony? It's a pretty serious thing. So in what ways do you think it's helped him or limited him?
Well, I feel like the drome has affected Tony in a way that it makes him feel left out and different from others, Like he does not belong with the rest. It limits him in being able to express himself around others. They either don't care for him or they instead use him for their purposes.
Okay, no, that's a really good point. We see it multiple times throughout the story that he's being used, or people just don't care about his well-being. It doesn't seem like he has a huge support system, which we all know is really important. At times he does have a support system. It's it wavers back and forth throughout the story. But Matthew, what do you think about his support system?
I would say his main support system would be his grandmother, Maxine, who, from what I glean, she's the one who keeps him grounded throughout the story and in touch with his roots, which is the overall theme of the novel. And she has him read her Indian stories, and he even mentions, there's a quote where he says, I didn't know what it meant then, and she saw that I didn't. She didn't explain it either, but we read the passage, that whole book, another time, and I got it. Maxine's always known me and been able to read me like no one else can, better than myself even. So that would probably be his safe place, his feeling of comfort, which is, something we all need. Like Jensen, like how do you weigh in on that, as far as having a support system and always kind of having that person in your corner?
I found it easy to empathize with this question about who a support system is. We all look for someone to speak to whenever we do kind of feel left out, or someone we can always go to that we know we're really comfortable around, whether it be like siblings, friends, family. And I think that's super important because sometimes when you're out there and you feel alone and separated from everyone, just having that one person to be there for you, it can really change like your whole feeling towards multiple subjects around you.
For sure. I can only imagine having the drone on top of it, because we feel that way just not having the drone, needing that person. So yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. There was a quote in the book, and Tony mentioned that Maxine's always known me and been able to read me like no one else can, better than myself even. So just having that person to see the outside and like you from a third person, they're able to help you and understand you better because they just see what's going around you.
Oh, what about
for
Tony's
sure.
connection? Oh, my bad.
No, also like I just as much as he needs that support system because I can only imagine how many people are trying to take advantage of him and use him, you know, for their own way, their own interests. Like Jensen Jose, like, can you guys give like an example of someone who, of or any experiences where people are trying to take advantage of him and use him?
Mm, Yeah, well, Tony has a friend, his name's Octavio, I believe, and say Octavio doesn't he doesn't have that same type of like a connection that uh Tony has with his grandma, right? You know, he has I guess the opposite where instead of, seeing him for who he is and helping him out, he does the complete opposite.
Yeah, throughout the book, I mean, Octavia's using Tony to rob the powwow by getting him to dress in his regalia, which is part of his Native American like heritage. And by doing that, it's kind of just using his heritage and who he is in a, I guess, in like a more criminal act and not really using it in a positive way.
For sure. Is there like a quote or anything, any type of evidence from the book? I'm sure the audience would want to hear just like a small snippet of how that came across to us.
Yeah, there's a quote
Yeah,
in the book that um, it's from Calvin, another character in the book. He looks over at Tony and then he says, Tony's supposed to do the actual robbing. The rest of them are in case anything goes wrong. And Octavio never explained why he wants Tony in regalia and why he should be the one to take the money. Calvin assumes it's because someone in regalia would be harder to identify and ultimately harder to investigate. So that quote right there just kind of proves that Octavio's really just having him around to blend in with people like him and that share the same heritage as him to rob this powwow.
For sure, for sure. It's crazy how people can kind of prey on our weaknesses or on our vulnerabilities or our want to be accepted. I definitely see Octavio doing that. Um, it seems also that Tony would look for any source of comfort. And in the story, in the novel, I found that like music was like his thing. That was one of his safe places, along with being around his grandmother Maxine. Troy, did you get that from any of the texts? Like music was like his thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, he stated that he absolutely loves to listen to music while he's riding around on his bike. That's really like, other than his grandma Maxine, music, I guess, is only his how he escapes. Because everything that he's been given, how do you escape someone like Octavio? You know, and what you were touching up on earlier, as far as wanting to be accepted, he says the drone, he's able to almost have it like a sixth sense, and he's able to see past people. Why don't you think he sees through Octavio? Is it because he's wanting that acceptance so bad? Because all he has is music and his grandma?
For sure, I wouldn't doubt that at all. Just that feeling of acceptance and to not feel dumb. Like he mentions in the story, in reference to music, that when he first heard this one artist, MF Doom, he said he understood it instantly, which I'm assuming is rare for him. And he said it was like a small thing, but it made him feel not stupid, not slow, not bottom rung. And he said it helped because the drum what gives him his soul, and the drum is a face worn through, like almost to where it helps him accept himself. And it's those feelings, I'm sure, few and far between for him, and that's why any feeling of being a part of the group, and Octavio kind of gives him that, even if it's the total wrong direction and it's ill intent. Just I can imagine that feeling being a warm feeling for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He I know what you mean by the song. I believe the part he says, you know, got more soul than a sock with a hole. He he ties in heavily towards the music, and he just runs with it.
For sure, for sure. He said he also said it it meant soul, like having a hole in the sock gives the sock character. It gives it a worn through. Gives this sock itself a soul, this inanimate object, or you know, and that's probably almost how he sees himself, as just this thing that's like been thrown away or people overlook, and that he has a soul. It makes him who he is, and I just feel like acceptance. It can only be a good
Yeah.
thing. Wish
Yeah,
he would follow Octavio around.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and you know, I think we can all relate to that, you know, empathetically. It's we've all felt that at one point in our lives where it just felt like, you know, it's like, you know, your worth, but at the same time yourself, you know, you're doubting yourself, especially when you're just surrounded by something that isn't promoting what you feel in yourself, you know?
For sure, for sure. Music is definitely a universal language that everyone understands.
Well, like I feel like we all made some valid points. So to conclude our podcast, we discussed our individual views on Tony Loneman, a character from Tommy Orange's book. There, we dug deep into the character, discussing sections where we built empathy for the character, such as the drone that affects him, music as a way out for him, and his correlation with Octavio. Now that will conclude our podcast, Empathy for Orange. Thank you for listening.
Watch the drop top poppy, known as the grimy, limey, slimy, try me, blimey. Simply smashing in a fashion that's timely. Mad villain dashing in a beat rhyme crime spree. We rock the house like rock and roll. Got more soul than a sock with a hole. Set the stage with a goal.